Hello and welcome to another Warframe video. Today, I'll be talking about Atlas, and the changes that have been made by Digital Extreme on this awesome Warframe. More specifically, I will be giving my first impression on the rework that has been done with Atlas, and of course, I will be sharing some builds for this Warframe. So, let's cut any long introduction and begin this video. To truly understand Atlas, let's take a look at his abilities first. His first ability is called Landslide, and basically, this is why Atlas has become the one-punch man in Warframe. I mean, this ability is amazing in terms of dealing damage. Just add a couple of power strength mods on this ability, and mod your melee weapons with base damage, impact damage, elemental damage, critical chance, and status chance mods, and this ability will give you that firepower to kill enemies in one punch. However, the biggest downside of this ability is when facing high-level, heavily armored units, as the damage won't be that good compared to those unarmored units. His second ability is called Tectonics. Upon casting, Atlas creates a bulwark made of stone with a base health of 3750 at max level, and additional health equal to 500% of Atlas modded armor bonus. Upon activation, the bulwark is invulnerable for 4 seconds. Incoming damage that is absorbed during the invulnerability period is converted and added to the bulwark's health. In addition, the health of this bulwark is affected by power strength. Deactivating the ability by pressing 2 again will cause the bulwark to compact into a boulder that rolls towards the current direction of aim, dealing impact damage per second to enemies that are dragged along its path. After rolling 15 meters or hitting an environmental object, the boulder will explode and inflict puncture damage to enemies within radius. This ability is pretty good because of its invincibility, and it's really good to use in tight spaces or blocked doorways, when your team decides to camp in a survival mission. However, just be wary of the fact that this bulwark does not provide cover from area of effect damage, including the explosive attacks of Grineer bombards and napalms. Now let's proceed to Atlas' third ability, the Petrify. Before the rework, this ability is channeled and there's no way that you can synergy this with your other abilities. But now, this ability is really amazing. It's now a single cast ability that turns enemies to stones, and leaving them vulnerable to your attacks. Mod Atlas with a lot of range and duration, and you'll turn him into a camera which turn enemies to stone, every time you click that button. However, be wary of the facts that petrified enemies are completely immune to status effects. Any duration-based status effect, such as a bleed proc, that is applied before an enemy is petrified will be interrupted until Petrify wears off. Also, bosses and capture targets cannot be petrified. And lastly, using Petrify on an enemy that is currently solidified will not refresh the stone duration. Once the enemy breaks free, it can be petrified once again. Now let's proceed to Atlas' final active ability, the Rumblers. Upon activation, Atlas summons 2 rock golems that automatically engage nearby enemies. Each Rumbler possesses a health, armor, and a speed multiplier of 1. Rumblers inflict impact damage with each melee attack and can occasionally throw stones at enemies that inflict impact damage. Their size, health, armor, and all sources of damage are affected by power strength, while they last longer in the field if you have lots of duration on your Atlas. They are immune to status effects, such as knockdowns and bleed procs, but can be staggered. If the ability is deactivated by pressing the ability key again or Atlas dies, active Rumblers will self-destruct and inflict blast damage to enemies within a radius. Rumblers are pretty good in dealing damage at a level 60 below enemies, but when enemy levels are higher than that, they just become the source of aggro and not damage dealers. Once the Rumblers are in the field, enemies tend to prioritize on attacking them, leaving the player enough space and time to act. Lastly, Upon casting rumblers, enemies within the radius will be petrified for a couple of seconds, depending on how much power duration mods you've equipped. Okay, let's talk about Atlas passive abilities. The first one is called Immovable. Basically, what this passive ability does is give Atlas the immunity to any knockdown effects while in contact in the ground. However, Atlas remains susceptible to knockdown while in the air. The other passive, and the newest addition to Atlas mechanic, is called Rubble. These pickup resembles a silver-colored piece of stone in appearance. Each Rubble pickup will restore Atlas health by 50 or provide him with 50 bonus armor when his health is full. There are a couple of ways to activate these Rubbles. One is when rumblers die, or you decide to deactivate them. When they fall, they grant 1 Rubble each. However, take note that rumblers that sustain damage to their health will grant less than 50 health or armor from their drop trouble. Also, petrified enemies that are killed by your attacks will grant the bonus health or armor. While petrified enemies killed by landslide grants 75 health or armor from their drop trouble. Rubble armor is displayed in a circular gauge, displayed above the ability icon, and take note that Atlas can accumulate up to a maximum of 1500 bonus armor. This bonus armor decays at a rate of 10 armor points per second. Lastly, take note that Rubble pickup cannot be vacuumed by sentinels or the Warframe innate vacuum radius. So basically, you need to locate and pick them up yourself. Okay, now let me share some builds that I find really fun to play with Atlas. The first one is a CC build which make use of his Petrify ability. Just mod your Atlas with lots of duration and range, coupled with a bit of efficiency, and you'll definitely turn almost all enemies in the map to stones. This build is really fun to play with, especially in team composition, as not only that it's fun to see a bunch of enemies turn into statues, but it's also pretty helpful for the team. The next build, and the one that I'm having tons of fun playing with Atlas, is somehow a Brawler build which makes use of all Atlas abilities. It's a pretty decent build which has the firepower to incapacitate almost every enemies in the game. The only thing that's problematic for some of you is the range. You need to get up close and personal with this build. But, if you like the idea of petrifying a bunch of enemies, and then breaking them with your massive one punch, then this is the build for you. Before I forget, if you guys really want to make your landslide ability do insane damage to enemies, then I suggest that you mod your melee weapon well. Refer to this mod setup if you like. However, this is not the optimal build for melee weapons, as I know some of you want to use your melee weapon quite a lot. I'm using these mods on my melee because these are some of the mods that works quite well with Atlas landslide ability. In fact, I strongly suggest that you don't follow my build blindly, as these builds works perfect for my playstyle, but it may not work for how you want to play Atlas. Just refer to my builds as guides to create your very own Atlas build. All in all, Atlas is a pretty fun Warframe to play with now because of how Digital Extreme decided to rework him. However, I find some things that needs a bit of improvement, like how Rubble decays really fast. If Digital Extreme is serious in giving Atlas more survivability, then probably they should reconsider how fast the Rubble decays. But overall, the rework is pretty awesome and I'm having tons of fun playing Atlas right now. So that's it. Hope that you find this video informative. Before you leave, please don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy this video, and, for first timers, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking the big red button below. Just remember to turn on the notification bell to join my squad and receive fresh Warframe videos every day. Thank you so much for watching and see you on my next video.